All right, second video, same day. Maybe it's Tuesday, maybe you split the lessons up. Either way, all that means is you still have to have it done by Wednesday at 2:25. And we're starting our Supreme Court cases, which means it's probably going to drive you a little crazy, like the Fine Young Cannibals over here. Day 2 of Federalism. We're going to talk about 2 Supreme Court cases today. You got a quiz on this due by Wednesday at 2:25. We're going to analyze the outcomes of McCulloch v. Maryland and Gibbons v. Ogden. Talk about relevant constitutional law and how these cases play into what the national government can do today. You have an entry card that's kind of long. Make sure you get that done and get that submitted by 2:25 on Wednesday. That's a big deal. We're going to talk about discussions of the case and notes and the precedents. Take your quiz. Homework. Homework number 2, different types of federalism down here at the bottom, down here. You got cooperative federalism, different types of federalism. And on Wednesday, you have 2 different quizzes going on. One on types of federalism and one on vocab. All the vocab on the quiz is listed on the announcements for Monday. All the words. I'm telling you the words that are on there. You have 18 minutes to take this quiz because there's 18 words. It's kind of crazy with the matching, so I gave you a little bit more time. Should be really easy to get 100. Oh, okay, here we go. As always, how did you come to school today? Hopefully you didn't come to school today because you're not supposed to be there. But hopefully you came to the lesson to figure out what's going on. So let's get this started. McCulloch v. Maryland. Huge case involving the necessary and proper clause and the supremacy clause. 2 different precedents going on here, right? Make sure you guys know that. It's both necessary and proper and supremacy. Quick background, 1816, 1818, McCulloch refuses to pay it. Maryland charges him with a crime. McCulloch appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court. Notice it's an appellate court, not original jurisdiction. That's it for background. You should have read it. Let's talk about the questions here really quick, though. Lessons are quick and easy. Hopefully you read those, watch those other videos as well. First, does the Constitution permit Congress to charter a bank? Yes. Congress has the power to incorporate a bank, says the United States Supreme Court, because it's related to one of their enumerated powers. The necessary and proper clause gives Congress the authority to make laws required to carry out its assigned tasks. Why? Because it would be impossible to list everything in the Constitution that the Congress can do for all eternity. So the founders give them this Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, this thing called the Necessary and Proper Clause, or the Elastic Clause, or implied powers. Remember, there's 3 ways to talk about them. Basic hint here is the Constitution has less than 3,000 words. Founders knew there was no possible way for them to come up with everything they could possibly have Congress do. So they give them this clause, this kind of elastic power to have them deal with things over time. So the Supreme Court says, look, can Congress print money? Yes. Can a bank print money? Yes. Can Congress loan and borrow money? Yes. Can a bank loan and borrow money? Yes. Well, if a bank can do those things and Congress can do those things, then Congress is basically a bank. They can make a bank. Right? So the first thing, can they make a bank? Yes. Why? Old man's pants. Elastic clause, necessary and proper clause, implied powers. Second question, what's the federal-state relationship? Here's the supremacy clause part, because remember, Maryland tried to tax the bank. They were angry. They didn't like the competition in the state. So what's the federal-state relationship? Federal governments and agencies are not subjects of any state. The only time you ever heard this word subject was in world history 2 years ago with Harrington, right? This idea that subjects have to listen to the person that's above them, right? In this case, federal government's never the subject of a state. They don't have to listen to them. So the state of Maryland could not tax the national bank. The Constitution's always going to win if there's a conflict with a state law as long as it's constitutional. This was the last lesson. This is supremacy clause. For all intents and purposes here, Maryland was trying to nullify the bank. Can't do that. All right, you can't do that. So what's the federal-state relationship? National government wins if it's constitutional. We know the bank's constitutional because the Supreme Court already said so. Third question, can a state tax the federal government? No, they can't. Why? Because a tax by a state on a federal institution is actually a tax on another state, right? And I'll explain that in just a sec. In other words, what Maryland was trying to do here was destroy the bank, because the power to tax would be the power to destroy in this situation. Please don't not pay your taxes because the national government's trying to destroy you. That's not what the Supreme Court's saying. What they're saying here is that the power to tax is the power to destroy, and if all the states could tax the national government would get destroyed. Let me show you what I mean with a quick picture here, right? So pre-16th Amendment, remember 16th Amendment says the national government can tax people directly. Before this, we paid our taxes to the states and then the states paid for us. In the center, you got Congress. All right, under this situation here, we got the state of New York, and basically because the way that things work, because national government can levy taxes, right? We did that before. National government taxes the states, and the states have to pay the money. Okay, that's a levy tax, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, super easy stuff. Now, here's what would have happened had Maryland won. They didn't. The bank was constitutional. But had Maryland won, we got Maryland over here on the left, right? Here's the problem. If Maryland could tax the national government and the national government taxed the state of New York, that means all the money that the state of New York paid back to the national government would actually go to Maryland, which means the national government would have no money and the national government would get destroyed. Kaboom, right? So here's the deal. The bank's constitutional. The opposite, if the bank was unconstitutional, wouldn't have been a problem. If the states could tax the national government, then the national government would get blown up and it'd go bankrupt. So overall, real quick review here. Can the Constitution, does it allow Congress to charter, incorporate a bank? Yes. Necessary and proper. Implied powers, elastic clause. What's a federal-state relationship? National government beats the states. Can the states tax the bank? No. Why? Because the power to tax is the power to destroy, and the national government's never a subject of a state. So what ends up happening is if Maryland won, this is what happens to the national government. Kabooey! Doesn't work that way, right? So what ends up happening is the national government wins. They can make a bank, necessary and proper clause, supremacy clause tied together. Boom! McCulloch, done. Hopefully you read. Second clause, Gibbons v. Ogden. This one's real easy because we've talked about interstate commerce. Think of the tape on the floor. You guys should have watched the video already. Here we go. How do we get here? Fulton gets this monopoly on the Hudson River. He gives it to Ogden. Gibbons gets a license from the federal government to go from New York to New Jersey. This should say New York, New Jersey on the ocean. Gibbons sues Ogden. Ogden sues Gibbons. Gibbons appeals to the Supreme Court. They hear the case. So, first question, really easy. Does Congress have the power to regulate commerce between foreign nations and states? And the Supreme Court under Marshall says yes, because whose jurisdiction would it be under? So the federal government assumes responsibility. Think about it. If trade goes from New York to New Jersey, who controls that trade? Is it New York or is it New Jersey? And what if they have different rules? You don't know how things go from one place to another. That would be nuts. Right, so first of all, it's a jurisdictional issue. Who has the power to hear this problem? National government does, because as soon as it crosses state line, you can't have somebody going between different things like that. Second, should navigation be understood to be part of commerce? Marshall says yes. All America understands that navigation is part of commerce. Now, I don't mean navigation using your phone. I mean navigation on water. This is a big deal, okay? Anything that travels across state lines now is regulated by the national government. This is where the Environmental Protection Agency gets its power from. Air and water cross state lines. This is a Commerce Clause thing, right? And what he says down here in the big red circle, hopefully you're seeing this, right? Among means intermingled with, which means between. So as soon as that commerce crosses that state line, national government assumes control of that commerce. States don't have the power anymore, all right? So that's a big deal here. That's a big deal here. So does Congress have the exclusive right to regulate commerce? And the answer here is no, because there's two types of commerce, right? As long as it crosses state line, national government regulates it, that's inter. If it doesn't cross the state line, that's intra. That's 10th Amendment stuff again, right? If it's not listed, you can't do it. So the national government can only regulate trade as long as it crosses the state line. This power is going to grow a lot. But we're not going to get to that power until Friday when we start talking about Supreme Court cases. So, quick review about Gibbons v. Ogden. Background, Hudson River, New York, New Jersey, state, national. Who controls the trade between states? By the way, what's on the ferry? People. We're going to get to that in just a minute, right? Does Congress have the power to regulate it? Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense for any state to have it, they would argue. Among means between, right, or intermingled with. So if across state line, the national government regulates it. Finally, does Congress have the exclusive right to regulate commerce? That'd be a big fat no. Congress can't regulate intra, but they can regulate inter. Why is this important? Let me tell you. Bam! Are there any constitutional provisions that limit Congress's power over commerce? No, as long as they don't openly violate the 10th Amendment. You're going to read that for me on Friday, a case called U.S. v. Lopez. So if you look here, Congress can regulate birds that migrate. They can regulate people that cross state lines. They can regulate water that crosses state lines. They can regulate people who are working if they have anything to do with crossing state lines. They can regulate air. Why? Federalist 28. One government denies your rights, go to the other government. So if you're an African American, you're in the South and you're in the 1960s and southern states are like, nope, can't do that. You go to the national government with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and they protect you. This is a monster case. This is a gigantic case. You've got to understand this case because this case leads to the national government having power to protect us from the states when they're being idiots, right? When they want to discriminate. So this is a big deal. All right, you guys should have both of these cases down. You should have read, you should look at the PowerPoint, you should look at the notes, you should listen to me again, and then take the quiz by Wednesday at 2 o'clock. It's imperative you take this quiz by Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I hope you guys are being safe. I hope you guys are being smart. Hope you guys aren't going out. You got nothing to do to get everything done today, because it's Monday now, right? Because you have nothing to do until Friday, right? Because this is all due on Wednesday at 2:25. I hope you guys are having a great day. Again, hope you guys had a great break. Catch you later. Chill Dog, out.